Welcome to our sagacious agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, July 29th, 2022, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 388. Bruce may have a guest on the call. I wanted to start with just a short story that I thought was pretty interesting, and I think everybody can learn from it. We have a long-term subscriber in South Florida. His name is Ryan. And I'll never forget Ryan because he's been with us 5 years, but about 4 years ago, one morning I got a call from a subscriber in his same market that said, I've been with you guys for almost a year and I've only done 3 deals. And I took the time to do the ROI for the gentleman. We're in a highly competitive market, South Florida, one of the top 10 in the country. But when I did the ROI with the gentleman, his ROI was phenomenal. But he still was like a little bit unhappy that he hadn't, done a dozen deals his first year. And then less than an hour later, I get a call from Ryan. And Ryan says, same market. I've been with you guys only for a year now, and I've already done 3 deals. I had to laugh at the contrast and the perception. That one guy was just looking at volume and the other guy was looking at actual ROI. Well, I got an interesting call from Ryan, same guy that was looking at the ROI last week, and he said, I want to share a short story with you. And he said, my ISA came to me a couple weeks ago and said, this is strange. The data we're getting on the probate leads, we've gotten over 30 leads in the last couple months with the same address for the deceased. And he said, should I just discard them, and move on, just assume it's a mistake? And Ryan said he thought about it for a second. And he said, they've been with ATL a long time. Their data is usually valid. He said, dig a little bit deeper. So the ISA came back a few days later and said, I'm glad you had me dig. All the 30 plus leads were from the Champlain Towers down in Miami Beach that collapsed last year. Had over 100 people killed, and a significant number of them were spouses. So it necessitated a probate. So all of a sudden he has 30 multi-million-dollar listing opportunities come across his desk. And his ISA had spoken to 3 of them and set 2 appointments. The properties run anywhere between 1 and 2 million. So I guess the moral of those 2 stories is look at your ROI, not just your volume. And don't be afraid to take a few minutes extra and dig into the data. Sometimes you might be pleasantly surprised. Don't just always assume that it's incorrect. That's it.
Absolutely. That's good, and it does bring up it brings up a really valuable point that a lot of folks need to hear. Okay. So many of our subscribers come in and they start getting leads and they say, you know what, I'm going to go after the low-hanging fruit, the easy leads. I'm going to go after the out-of-state siblings. I'm going to go after the children of someone that might have passed away that don't live local. Those are the people that need immediate help. And those are the easier leads to call. It's true. They do need help a little bit faster and sometimes a little bit more help than the surviving spouse. But do not discount those ones that you perceive as being more difficult, because those surviving spouses and those siblings and children, or sometimes parents that live local, they often need assistance and help as well. And I know from having coaching calls with many of you guys that there's so many people that only go after the out-of-state PR, that only prospect that person and offer assistance to them, that if you are the individual that's offering help and support and assistance to the surviving spouses, even if they're living in the house that the decedent owned, they come back and they oftentimes appreciate you so much more. It might be a little bit longer maturation process for those leads, but they really appreciate it. Some of my absolute all-time best clients were surviving spouses that lived in the decedent's property. And many times I've helped with other things, and it has led to real estate at some point in the future. And many times those create referral opportunities, and you can adopt that person into your sphere of influence and have a client for life because you were willing to have that initial conversation with someone that might actually live in the same property that the decedent owned. Okay, so do not discount your leads just because it's not perceived as one of the easy ones. They're all good. To Jim's point, that would be a difficult call. The Champlain Towers, that would be a really tough call to make. You're calling someone that was a surviving spouse of somebody that died in that tower collapse. That's awful. But they still need help. So don't just get scared of that person that needs help because the situation might be tough or you're fearful that they might be emotional. Make the call, send the mail, get in front of people, and definitely lead with help first. You've got to lead with empathy and the idea that you're helping first and foremost above all else. I can see
Jim
biting his tongue.
No, I was just going to ask a question, and that was that the property that's in that tower, are most of the people that are going into probate there, they own something elsewhere? Because obviously they're not probating the tower because it's down.
That's a good, well, but there's $1 billion lawsuit that I'm assuming would become part of the people's estate.
Well,
So
it would be, but I'm just saying from
a good point though. Yeah.
I'm wondering if all of those people had, out of market or not that addressed property that was in that, because, they would fall into the ideal kind of customer because,
Yep.
mom and dad were living in the tower and down it went, and, they had condo elsewhere and property in New York and, the standard thing we find often in South Florida. So I just wondered it'd be interesting for you to reach back out to them and to him and find out what Ryan found in those people. That'd be great to know.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. I hadn't even thought about that. There's nothing to sell because it's there now. But it's about the same token.
So we don't know that though, guys. We don't know that there's nothing to sell. We know that
absolutely
that the property that was most recently lived in was in the towers, but these folks, it's one of the reasons why we offer Property Plus, is these folks own properties elsewhere. And if you just go by a tax record search and you say, oh, there's no real estate here, it's already sold, or there never was any, it does not mean that a vast majority of the time there's land, there's houses in other locations that are going to go through probate and be sold as well.
Well, and if I found that many people in a given circumstance like that, I think I'd be pretty tempted to go create a custom piece of mail. If I found that almost all of those people turned out as having additional property not part of the tower, and it looked pretty like a great opportunity, this might be one of the times, Bruce, to come with one of your very high value pieces of mail, even labeled, Champagne Tower Assistance Association, or something like that, that's really topical, that would get the attention of the person that was reading it, and talk about out of market or off, not in there, and you have other property and all that, and let us give you an appraisal of everything that's there. We know there's other property, yada yada yada. I mean, it might be a great way to market to that, and that's not the only time that you find that sort of stuff. You find the same things that happen in natural disasters and things like that. And not trying to encourage you to become a great merchant of disaster, but the whole point behind this is that you have a unique opportunity, particularly with those people, to the last thing they were prepared to do in a disaster would be to deal with all the stuff they're having to deal with. And if mom or dad own property in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Southern California, and New York, they got to deal with all that. You have connections because of your relationship with us. You got connections in all those markets. We can turn you on to the right people in those markets to work with them and, get that handled in no short order. And that's a great value to bring, particularly for out of market property. And you're going to find that almost always in those kinds of circumstances.
Yep. So if you guys don't mind, let me quickly remind everyone that's listening to us what this call is for those of you that this may be your first time. I want to let you know that this call is for you. We do convert it into a YouTube video, and it goes out on podcast for folks to listen to. But if you're live here, I want you to know that this is, we've got a big live audience today, a little bit light today, but we still have a lot of people on this call. The questions that you have around developing your business, whether it's probate, divorce, pre-probate, or general business questions in the real estate space. We are here to answer those questions. We have a handful of coaches on this call, so we're able to answer those questions. If you have a win, okay, so you got some leads, you called, you prospected them, you turned them into an appointment, we want to hear from you. As a matter of fact, every week that we have somebody or more than one person that comes in and they share a win, either they signed a deal, they closed a deal, they signed a listing, that kind of thing. You share that, we'll pick a winner of the week and offer you a credit toward your leads. And then we also accept ideas of the week. So if you have something specifically that's working in a market that you're in that might be a little bit unique and you want to share that, some of our subscribers are always looking for ideas. So we take an idea of the week as well and provide you a credit toward your leads. So we want to hear from you guys. And all you have to do is either chat your questions in, or in a perfect world, I'd like to see your face on Zoom as you ask that question. We love getting that face-to-face interaction here on Zoom with your questions, your comments, your wins, and your ideas. So please pop your hands up. We will call on you or chat your questions in either on the live streaming service or here in Zoom, and we'll get those questions answered for you. Before I go to Allison, who has her hand up, we did have a question chatted in. The question is, why would I need to go through probate if there was a surviving spouse? Wouldn't everything automatically confer to the spouse? So there are a lot of different types of assets in that often go into an estate. There are beneficiary assets. Those would be things like a house, if the house is in both names. Bank accounts, if the bank accounts are in both names. Life insurance, that's something that passes through without having to go to probate. But there are tons of different assets, be it personal property, real property. It could be financial assets that don't pass directly through to a beneficiary. And that would be especially if the beneficiary's name is not on that account. So in a case like a house, sometimes the house is in one person's name. It does automatically get left to the surviving spouse, but if that surviving spouse wasn't on title, then it probably has to go through probate. And this is very state specific. So here in North Carolina, where I live, real estate typically does not have to pass through probate. And some other states have the same general rules, but if it has to pass through probate, and if the surviving spouse wasn't on title, it goes through probate. Even if they're going to get the property at the end of the day, it still has to go through the probate process. So you're really looking at those assets that have the survivor's name on it. Those are the ones that don't have to go through probate. Another example of that would be when my grandfather passed away. He had a bank account. Unfortunately, it didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in it. It had hundreds of dollars in it, but it had his and my name on that bank account. And I didn't even know about it, but because he'd opened it under both of our names, those dollars were able to pass to me without going through the probate process, because I was a beneficiary on that account. Okay. So that's what we're looking at when it comes to why real estate would still have to go through probate, even if there's a surviving spouse.
And I think, Bruce, I think it's also important to recognize that even if the real estate isn't part of the probate, there may be an intention or a desire for them to sell and relocate into an assisted living facility. And that's, I mean, I speak from real world experience. I helped my parents downsize at the end of Q1. They purchased a home from a surviving spouse. They listed the house within 4 weeks of the date of death, because they already had a family plan to be able to transition their elderly mother into an assisted living facility that was closer to them. And you know, it wasn't an opportunity for us. They already had a plan. They had a relationship with an agent, but it's still absolutely worth the while to build that relationship and reach out and contact a surviving spouse because the opportunity is there.
100%, absolutely. Good. Let's go to Allison first here really quickly. Allison, if you would unmute yourself, let us know what you have. You are still on mute. Hold on one quick second. I think I have to give you permission here. Should be able to unmute yourself now.
All right, there we go. I just had a random conversation with another realtor and she says, I'm going to start working probate. And I didn't have a chance to really pick her brain. But I'm just curious to know, I don't believe she's a part of all the leads. We're in the same area. And I'm just wondering, is there another place that people are getting leads? Like, is there a competition that I should know about? Or I want to make sure that like I'm the first one to have that information. Any advice there? And then I do have another situation too. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 if you have a chance. I did my cold calls. A woman got upset with me for pronouncing her name incorrectly. I sent her she texted me and chewed me out via text. And I sent a message saying, you know, I apologize, didn't know how to pronounce it. Nobody's ever taught me, but you know, I sent a follow-up letter and invited her to lunch. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted, but let me know if anybody's had that kind of experience before too.
Of all the things for them to get upset about, not because you're calling regarding a deceased family member, but because of a name mispronunciation, I think that kind of objection or that complaint, it's fairly minor, and it does give you a really great opportunity to differentiate yourself. So what I like to tell people is when you get someone that kind of comes after you for something, it's one of the best opportunities to handle it properly. And if handled properly, people back down a lot. I've had many people over the years that have come back and apologized for their reaction, and it starts a conversation because they're reacting out of emotion, and we certainly understand that emotion. They're probably going through a very difficult time, and the settling of an estate of a loved one that you cared for and you loved can turn even the kindest, most soft-spoken people into real beasts on the phone and with their reaction. If you handle it in a defensive manner, a lot of times they'll continue to stay on the offense. If you handle it in a gracious manner and fall on your sword, a lot of times they'll come back and really calm down. So I think that you handled it relatively well. I fall on my sword hard when somebody gets upset. You know, if they call me an ambulance chaser, which by the way, I don't want anyone freaking out that you're going to get called an ambulance chaser. Yes, you do this long enough, it will happen. You will have a person or two that gets upset from time to time, but it's very rare. And I've had it happen to me a number of times. And I will just go, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were going through this. Please forgive me. I probably would react the exact same way. And I tell them that. And most of the time, that person will either call me back, they'll text back, they'll email back, or sometimes right then on the phone, they'll say, no, I'm sorry. It's been a rough time. What were you calling about? And now we get into the conversation. So I almost value the people that get upset with me. So we will see what happens. Occasionally you get someone that just flat out does not back down on their kind of vitriolic offense that they've taken. But most people will kind of see reason, and they'll recognize that they were reacting out of emotion, and they'll come back to you and apologize. And that's an amazing opportunity to kind of move that dialogue forward. Now, with regard, and I do want to give the other coaches an opportunity to respond here, but with regard to your initial question, yeah, there's always competition. The majority of any competitors that you might have are probably going to the courthouse themselves. Different states, different counties may have some researchers that go in, or they might try to pull leads online. A lot of those, depending on the area, a lot of those competitors that they may be getting their leads from aren't getting super accurate data, just because if they're pulling it online, they're relying on what the courthouse has put into a system. Most of the time, competitors would be actually going to the courthouse themselves, which is something that that can be done. It's easier said than done. It's not the easiest process in the world, because you've got to go down there every week or every month and kind of sort out the data, and then you have to have good skip tracing software or multiple good pieces of software to skip trace and find all the errors, all the phone numbers, different things like that. So can someone do it themselves and be your competition? Yes, there's a steep learning curve. And I guarantee in most markets, there are people that are doing that. I usually tell folks that your competition doesn't really matter a whole lot. I've trained competition in my market. There's a very close friend of mine in my market that still competes with me. And I hope that she does extremely well. I know that there's enough business in a market like I'm in, where if she gets half and I get half, I still do incredibly, incredibly well in the probate space. So I wouldn't worry about losing a little bit of that to competitors, or having people that that might also get the leads, even if it's from all the leads. I wouldn't worry about it a whole lot. Number one, because there's a lot of business to go around. Number two is because the overwhelming majority of people that go after the probate niche don't do the work. They don't make the calls. They don't send the letters. If they do, they send one letter, and then they drop the lead at that point. And these folks need 4, 5, 6 months of nurturing before the average one sells property. Some people are going to go faster than that, some people longer, but the average is going to be that 5 or 6 month range. Those are the reasons that I wouldn't worry about the competitors. You kind of put your system in place, make sure you're making the calls, make sure that you are marketing to them effectively. You're not going to catch them all. Someone's going to beat you to one. You'll beat that person to another one. And as long as you kind of stick with it, your pipeline's going to fill up. And in several months, you're going to say, you know, I can reliably predict the number of pieces of business that come out of any given list that I get. But it is going to take you 4 or 5 months before you see that predictable result. Hopefully you'll get business sooner than that, but I want to get to the place of predictability and reliability. And that happens somewhere around the half a year mark.
Bruce, I wanted to address the issue she raised of other people being there, and she wants to make sure she's first and getting all that done. And I think the good way to look at doing that is to make sure that you have your leads set up on autopilot, that you have mailings set up on autopilot. That way, you're first to market. As soon as the leads hit, you're going to be out with your letter. It's going to be in their inbox. I mean, in their post office box, or in their mailbox at the door, as early as you can get it there, and you'll get it as well in the mail. So you'll know that today is the day that your potential customers have received theirs as well. That tells when for you to start dialing for dollars. The other thing to remember is that people who are getting leads elsewhere, I mean, Bruce made the point very well. They're not getting the quality of information that we put. It's one of the things that we've spent years perfecting, is our system for making sure that the data that we give you is not only as accurate as possible, but as full as possible. And what I mean by that is, we go find reachable phone numbers, even though we do give you the do not call list flag, because we do that. It's a requirement that we let you know that, but we find you a lot of phone numbers. We find you the addresses that we need to find you to give you the data back. And we make sure that your letters are deliverable wherever possible. They're not always going to be deliverable. A lot of times someone has moved. We have to rely in those circumstances, in most cases, on what's happening with the Postal Service. And that requires that the letter carrier fills out that last mile step that says there's nobody here to take this mail. And oftentimes, particularly in a hot market like it is today, rental turnover is pretty quick. And so you could find that someone was in a house and literally rolled that house over, and it was never really empty long enough for the Postal Service to flag it. But now there's somebody who's there that isn't there, and it wasn't there when you started. So it's still undeliverable to the person that you addressed it to. They've now moved elsewhere. We do the best job we can of skip tracing them, but that's always going to be a bit laggy. But we do the best job that we can do to make sure that we give you actionable data and allow you to get there first by putting it on autopilot. The other thing to be aware of is if you're using our mailing service, we make sure that what you put out there is distinctive and unique. It does not look like your competition. It's completely different font, different color, different size envelope, all that sort of stuff. So we do all we can to help you accomplish the objectives that you said. Get it on autopilot, get your mail out there, and that way you're dealing with your market uniquely. And we make sure that we don't duplicate anything in anybody's marketplace. But Bruce, the last point I'd hammer home is what Bruce said, which is that a lot of people who start with either courthouse data, or there are a couple of other services, particularly in one in California that I'm aware of, and another one in, I think, in Texas, where you can get data sometimes inexpensively. And typically it's not very actionable data. It's not really probate data. It might be zero transfer data. It's usually old and not very actionable. It's cheap, but I mean, cheap is the value of good. So all I'm saying is we provide you with the best information, and we try to give you the best ability to get to market first with it if you use our technology to get there.
Perfect. I think Jim has something to say. I want you guys to know White is going. We're going to call on White next, and then I think it's William, right? Is it William or Bill? Okay, then I'll call on Bill. But I want to give Jim a chance to give his 2 cents, and then we're going to check with Allison, make sure that we got your questions answered properly. So Jim,
I'll give you my 10 cents. How's that? It won't
Yeah.
take long. To follow up to what both of you said, I talk to all the people that cancel. It always amazes me how many people either just do mail, or some of them just call, but they don't do both. So just doing both is probably gonna make you stand out among your competition. And the second thing I would say, one of our salespeople, Darcy, one of her slogans is "the fortune is in the follow-up." And I can't tell you how important that is. I've got a story that I'll never forget. I had a for sale by owner one time say to me, "My God, are you going to call me every single day?" And I said, "Well, there's one way to get that to stop. List with me, and you'll never hear from me again." And the guy said, "I like you. You're funny." So unless they really get annoyed, I don't think you can call them too much. But I think just that there, I'll bet you 95% of your competition doesn't call them more than a few times. Very, very few people keep following up and following up and following up. And that right there will beat out your competition almost every time.
do you really not talk to your clients after you've listed them, Jim?
No, I was trying to be funny, and the guy fortunately realized it backfires if he doesn't realize you're trying to be funny. But fortunately, this guy did. So, sometimes you just got to have fun prospecting too, and people appreciate it.
Yep.
Well, I can see in your case how that threat might work.
Oh, Tim, sit up in your desk. You're skydiving.
Allison, are you good? Any follow-ups? I think we got you back on mute. Hold on 1 second.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's good. Thank you. I did bring up one question though. Like if there are multiple people in this area working the same leads, are they all going to get the same letters? Like is one? No. Okay.
No. We do our absolute best if subscribers are with us to make sure that that letter sequence and the type of letters that are going out are not stepping on each other. So absolutely not. You should not have to worry about somebody sending your same letter or even using your same letter sequence. Good. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Allison. White Simpson. Let's go to White.
Hi guys, hope y'all are well. I got a win and just wanted to share it to everybody. I sent out a couple months ago a letter and it happened to hit it was for a executor, and she was in the real estate business. But he reached out to me, and he told me, can y'all hear me?
I got you. Yeah.
Hold on. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can.
We hear you fine,
Okay,
bud.
my phone rang. Sorry about that. So the guy reached out to me, and he was an investor. So I have never met this guy, but then I did another mail, and the lady called me. She was from Louisville, Kentucky. She had an uncle that had a house. She said, I want to get it sold. I went down and met with her, and I listed it, got both sides. The investor bought it, and it's a great deal. And it closed in like 10 days. I was on vacation when it closed.
Those are the best closings.
Yeah, and he wants more. And he flipped that one, but he told me if I bring him to him and he rehabs them, then he'll let me list it again, even though he is a realtor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it works.
So where did you get the investor again? Go back to how you.
I got him through a lead that y'all sent me. His mother or father-in-law had died, and I was reaching out to his wife as the executor, and he called and said, hey, I like what you're doing because it's a really good service. And so I kept his, I didn't know if it'd work or not, but I kept his name and number as an investor. And I called him, and he rode by the house and looked at it and called me back and said, yeah, I'll buy it. And they bought it full price, and the rest is history on that one.
This brings up two really good points. Number one, we do not know what kind of amazing relationships are going to come out of leads. We have no idea. Some of my very close friends, several of my investors, referral partners, all kinds of great relationships have come out of working these leads with an open mind. A closed mind on working the leads could be, hey, everybody's going to be mad. They're all going to be grieving and emotional, and I shouldn't call them. Another type of closed mind when you're working these leads is this is a real estate transaction only. And if you go into it with a single focus, this is real estate only, you're going to miss opportunities like White just presented. You're going to miss the investors that come out of here. You're going to miss business relationships. You're going to miss friends. You're going to miss a lot of opportunities to help folks if you get too narrowed in on this only being about listing or buying real estate. The other point that I wanted to make to White's approach here is the investor. And I taught this a couple of weeks ago on our investor class. If you are an investor, one way to make sure that you get first crack at some of these deals that come up is go to the agents and make sure that you are going to take care of them. A lot of times we as investors are looking to save every penny possible, beat every single person up on the deal, and you're killing your potential referral network by doing so. If this investor had gone to White and told White, hey, I want you to bring these deals to me, but hey, you know what? I'm not going to list with you. I'll do it myself. White wouldn't have motivation to take any of these deals to the investor. So immediately the investor has gotten a lot of opportunity because he treats White well. He lets him on the buy side and the list side. So if you're an investor and you're looking for more business from the realtors that you're working with, treat them like this investor is treating White. Let them have both sides of the business. They'll give you first crack at the deals that they find. Probate, bankruptcy, divorce, NODs. I mean, wherever they're finding that business, they'll give you first crack at it if you treat them the way that the investors treated White.
And you'll end up making a lot more money.
Yep, absolutely. White, thanks, man. That's an amazing story. Really appreciate it. Anything else?
No, yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother. All right. William, could we call on you? Let's have you unmute yourself. There you go.
Great. Hi, guys. Thanks for letting me talk. Well, first of all, while I was thinking about it, I'm looking for a prefabricated checklist of some kind of things to know for your probate process that I could hand to prospects. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm sure I could figure it out myself, but if somebody already has a prefabricated one, if you could shoot it to me, I can, my email address is thewortgroup@gmail. Just shoot me one, and I'd love to take a look at it. I appreciate that.
WERT.
WERT, yeah, it's in my handle here. So, okay, my big question is, and this may be a no-brainer, I don't know. Why would it need, let's see, what specifically do attorneys do for probate? We talk about them doing all the legal stuff, but what is it specifically? Because I've had prospects actually, leads actually ask me that, like, I can read, why do I need an attorney? Well, that's a great question. So
Yeah.
what do they do?
Attorneys, they're all different. Let's kind of start with that. Some of them get involved at kind of a concierge level, like we teach our subscribers, our agents and investors to do. Others just push paperwork. They file the motion with the court. They hold the prospects or the PR's hand through the process, telling them what to do. Other times they actually do the work. They will call and have, or their paralegal will call and place the notice in the newspaper. They will, they're really all different. There's a lot of attorneys that do an absolutely terrible job, and they will take what would have taken the PR 9 months and they'll turn it into 18-month probate process. There's others that'll guide that personal rep through the process in 2 or 3 months when it would have taken them a year to get through it themselves. So the attorneys are all different. And I realize that this is a kind of a BS answer for you because it really depends on the attorney and what their fee structure is. It's one of the reasons why you want to go out and build those relationships. And instead of starting the relationship with the attorney by saying, hey, can you refer me business? You want to start the relationship with the attorney by talking to them about referring them business and wanting to find out what they do for the PR and the family that's going through probate. So I'm kind of interviewing you because I want to bring you business. Now, in return, you should get business back, but you want to find that attorney that provides the best service and the service that complements the service that you're trying to provide the most. Normally, I don't want the attorney that does literally everything for the personal representative in the family. I'd like the attorney that what I'm offering, those ancillary services I'm offering, I'd like those to be a complement to the area that the attorney leaves off. What do most attorneys do? And I'm sure I'll have some coaches that provide, or even some of our subscribers that provide different services. But number one is they're going to file the initial motion. They're going to go to the court, and that paperwork is complicated. I mean, I evicted someone from a rental property a few months ago, and the process of filling government paperwork out is a complete nightmare for someone that's never done it before. It's a piece of cake for someone that's done it, that has done it 1,000 times or a dozen times. So the attorney immediately is going to save the prospect a lot of time and hassle by just simply filling government paperwork out on time. Then they're going to go to the court, get the letters testamentary. They are normally going to guide that personal representative or executor through the remainder of the process. Even if they're not doing the process for that PR, they're going to guide them and tell them what to do and when to do it. They almost always leave off when it comes to the anything to do with the real estate. So any property maintenance, any clean outs, any estate sales, any sale of property, that's normally where the attorney cuts out. Okay. Sometimes they cut out way before that.
Is that because it's a liability issue, or they just don't want to deal with the hassle?
It's more of a hassle issue. I don't believe that I'm sure one attorney might tell you it's a liability issue, but most of them it's simply the hassle and it's just not their job. Sometimes they have a real estate agent that would want to, that they would want to refer to for those. Other times they don't. They just say, okay, what you do next, Mr. Executor, is you go and get the property sold. And the executor's like, well, I guess I'll just call an investor. I don't know what to do. And the attorney says, yeah, go call an investor. So there's different levels, just like with realtors. there are different levels of service that we provide. Some realtors are just going to say, hey, go call a lender. Other realtors are going to say, call my lender, this person at this number, and I'm going to actually introduce you and I'm going to follow through on the process. So just because attorneys are really the same way that we in the real estate space are. Sometimes they handhold you through the process, and sometimes they just kind of say, okay, here's what you do next, go for it. So you want to build relationships with the attorneys that kind of walk through the process with folks, and attorneys that are willing to hand over pieces of the process to you. So that's where you're going to provide immense value to not only the attorney, but the family.
So their base job is to file the letters in the court. That's it?
No, they're going to, they're also going to, well, there's a lot of hand holding. They are also going to be making sure that the creditors are notified. They're going to make sure that the bank account is set up. So each probate case, each estate has to have its own bank account. They're going to make sure that all finances are funneled into that bank account, that there's no money that's getting inherited that goes directly into an heir's bank account without going through probate and being legally documented. So it's a lot of documentation and making sure that they can show the government at the end of the day that the debts were paid and the taxes were paid. So now beyond that, that's a 30,000 foot view. The map is not the territory in this case. That there's more nuance that goes into it than those, but those are the overall categories that the attorney is going to cover.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, I realize that I'm probably setting myself up for an influx of emails, but I do have a probate checklist that's 2 pages long. I'll send you, and we are converting that into something that all the leads can send out. I've got my first draft. It should be ready to go out here within a week. It's currently end of July 2022 right now. So don't ask all the leads for it for a week, because I've got my first draft right now.
Gotcha.
But we'll have that available, and I'll send you my current version and email after this call.
Awesome, Bruce. Thanks, man.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, William. All right, let's go to Ken, and then I'm going to check while Ken's asking his question. I want to check comments, see if there are any written questions, and we'll get to all of you guys here in a minute. Ken, what do you have for us?
Yeah, hi, Bruce. Can you hear me okay?
Got you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Number one, I wanted to say that I've been in and out of this program for a while now. When I first got these Excel spreadsheets, there was so much data, like it was overwhelming. So I had trouble getting my head wrapped around how to disseminate it. But now that I've been more committed to the process, actually I have 2 wins I want to share. Number one, I have a client, talk to him, introduce myself, just said, hey, I help people with probate. You know, I know a lot of times when someone passes away, homes can be in disrepair, and there's a lot of emotions going on. So I help people do repairs. I help people clean out the home. I help them get a cash offer if that's what they're looking for, all the way down to a resale home on the residential market. So that's how I introduce myself. But I called one gentleman. He already had his trust set up. His parents were smart enough to set up a trust. He was just like, hey, I need 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, hey, no problem. I completely understand. You know, I want to be of service. I don't want to bother you, obviously. Called him back in 2 weeks, set the appointment, got together with him. He didn't list with me that day. Basically, it took another week, got back together, listed a home, got it sold, you know, super easy. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I had another one. I'm in Vegas. So the seller was in Laughlin, which was really cool for me to win that sale, because that's an hour and a half away. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that people want to work with somebody in the immediate area. But I built a connection with him and started the conversation the same way, build a connection, drove out to Laughlin, an hour and a half away, listed his home, got it sold within like 2-3 weeks. So now I'm all in. I'm like, I love the program. I love the leads. super excited. Like, I'm like,
Yep.
it just instantly, like, from being sort of fear-based in the beginning of the year, I'm just like, okay, the world is my oyster. Like, all I got to do is keep being consistent and then just refining my process. And like, yeah, I'm very excited about the future, with all the leads.
That is amazing, and I want you guys to hear it directly from Ken. Ken was fear-based. I have been fear-based in prospecting, and specifically prospecting probate leads at multiple different times. The fear is very heavily unfounded. If you are operating in fear of prospecting, or maybe not just regular prospecting, but prospecting a probate executor, don't be. Do some people misinterpret you every now and then? Do they get a letter? Do they get a phone call? Do they and occasionally misinterpret it, kind of like they did with Allison? Yes, occasionally that happens. The overwhelming number of people that you're going to work with, if you just put yourself out there and market to them and prospect them, leading with assistance and help, leading with kind of a concierge service, which is what I teach all the time, they'll appreciate what you're offering, because no one else is really doing this. No one else is really doing this. Now, another point that I want to make, Ken, you are not the only person. So you just mentioned Vegas. You're not. I know for a fact, and they're not even with us. But there are other people in the Vegas market that work probates. You got business, and there are some very strong players. So this goes to a point that I want to prove to everyone here. It does not matter who has an edge in the probate space in your market. You can still take that edge over. You can still get significant business out of this, because there's a lot of real estate to be sold out of estates and probate. And people are just looking for help. Just because you have competition that's doing really well doesn't mean that you can't also carve off a really healthy market share for yourself.
Yeah, I had a person I talked to last night, and they're like, you're like the 99th person that called me. So I'm like, okay, well, I explained to them why they're on the list, why they're getting so many calls. And then I said, but do you have any comparable sales for your home? Oh, no, we don't, no one's given that to us. So I said, hey, would that be helpful? They said, yeah, that would be great. So, just started the conversation, even though they said a lot of people called them.
Yep.
Was able to send them the comparable sales. And who knows, but I feel very confident that probably will turn into a sale.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And by the way, that person probably, if they said 99, so I'm not necessarily coaching you, Ken. I realize you know this, but I'm really using this to talk to some of our other folks that are thinking about this or doing probate. If you're in real estate, if you're a realtor, if you're an investor, the same thing applies to you. Most people know other realtors. They know other realtors, they know other investors. They're going to use the person that provides the most value and is most relevant to their life and their situation. And so that's what we want to teach you guys, is to be relevant to their life and their situation. I don't care what my competitors do, because I don't believe my competitors are going to be as relevant to their situation as I am, or as Ken is, or as any of you are if you build a service-based business.
Hey, Bruce, lastly, I'm trying to do more calls between Tuesday and Thursday, trying to be consistent. And I notice when I make calls with other people, then it holds my feet to the fire. So can I put it out there to the community to join me on a Zoom call and do prospecting calls?
Put it out to the community on the Facebook Mastermind group, and we're going to be announcing and rolling out Mastermind groups that come with prospecting time for everyone here very soon. Not quite ready to roll out yet, but very soon we'll do that as all the leads. In the meantime, grab anyone that looks to prospect and hold each other accountable. That's perfectly fine. Just post it on the All the Leads Mastermind Facebook group.
Perfect. And like the other guy said, and I'm like, for some reason, I'm a little nervous on this call, but like, it is about having fun. Like, there's nothing scary about it. And it is fun to connect with these people when you think it's scary, and then all of a sudden they're opening up to you and telling you about, who passed away and the troubles they're experiencing. And you're there and you like, oh, I got you, I can help you. So it actually really is enjoyable once you start getting momentum.
There's nothing more rewarding than knowing you've made an impact in someone's life, a positive impact that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Absolutely.
And when they say, I couldn't have done this without you, that gives you a high. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Good.
all right. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much, though.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you coming on. I have not checked the chat. Alyssa, do we have any typed in questions that we need to ask before we move on and kind of get ready to close this down? We do have about 5 or so more minutes. If anyone does have any questions, you want to throw your hand up, share a win, an idea, or ask a question, let us know before we take a look at those hands that may or may not be raised. Alyssa, is there anything that I need to be answering?
Nope, no questions in the chat right now.
Okay. All right. You got another minute or so, guys, and then we're going to go ahead and close it down. Do any of my other coaches have anything that they'd like to contribute? I talk too much and don't leave any air for anyone else. Chuck, I know you're dying to say something.
Well, I think on Ken's point, when you do have a number of other people that are making calls and are connecting with the personal representative, and you are 5th, 6th, 10th, 99th in line, and you're speaking to someone, typically in that particular situation, I'll mention, well, I'm not just an agent, I'm not just an investor, I have an entire solutions team behind me to be able to handle many of the different scenarios that you may not be anticipating until you start digging into the heavy lifting and dealing with all the stuff that's left behind. And we have a full-blown solutions team. I am the team leader, and I'm also the real estate specialist on the team. So let's talk about what your goals are in settling the estate. Let's put together a strategic plan. And Ken, hats off to you, man. Absolutely being able to getting yourself in a position to deliver them valuable information relative to helping them forward the settlement of the estate. That's how you can really strengthen your relationship with them. And then they'll start thinking, well, Ken already helped me with this. You're planting those seeds and you're taking those steps to where then it'll make it much easier for you to just walk through, get that sale, and help them get what they want.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Chuck. Let's go to Larkus. We've got a couple of quick minutes, so I'm gonna come to the questions here real quick. Larkus, you first, if you'd unmute yourself.
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Just a quick question. I hear you guys talking a lot about probate. I wasn't sure if it was an all probate kind of Zoom here. I have.
Go ahead.
It is.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I know that the time is coming up short, but I have a property and I'm a newbie. I've been following you guys for maybe 3 years now. I closed my first deal in March. I wholesaled my first deal in March. Kind of fell in my lap, which is a pretty good thing. But since then, I've pretty much established a relationship with wholesale dispo department managers, and they kind of send me leads. And I just got a lead in like an hour ago down in West Palm. It's an 8-unit value add opportunity, and they're asking like 1.2. This is kind of like out of my league. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should just kind of put it out there and see if anybody knows of any cash buyers down there or investors in the area that I can kind of pass this lead on to, or possibly, link with.
Larkus, are you a subscriber? And is that your first name? Is it Larkus? Am I butchering that?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
That is my first name, Larkus. Yes.
Perfect. Are you a subscriber of ours?
I am not a subscriber
Okay.
yet.
So
Yes.
what we'll have you do, if you're comfortable sharing it, share your phone number. Anyone that's listening, actually, what I'd like is anyone that's listening, Larkus, call our number on the top of all the leads page. Give your phone number and information to support. I don't want you to get bombed with a bunch of unsolicited calls. So give your phone number to the support team on our site. So alltheleads.com. Anybody that's listening that knows what they're doing down in that area and is interested in working or buying a unit like he's just mentioned, call support. They will connect you guys. I just want to make sure that we don't have just a free for all running. So Larkus, call in to our system, tell them what you have, and then we'll kind of do a tiny bit of gatekeeping. I don't want you to get 1,000 calls.
I appreciate that. That's the 844-532-3369 number.
That's right.
Copy that. Okay, I got it. Thanks,
Right.
Bruce. Appreciate it.
Hey, Bruce, Alyssa suggested we reiterate the area. He's in Palm Beach County, West Palm Beach, Florida.
Yep.
I see my friend Raphael on here. Raphael, give him a call. I know we have a number of subscribers in that area, so
Amazing.
I'm sure he'll get, I'm sure. And I'm glad he didn't give out his phone number there.
Right. Yep. Perfect. Thanks, Larkus. Hey, let's really quick. Next is we are not only probate. This call is heavily geared toward probate. That's the type of lead that we've taught on, trained on, and provided for the longest amount of time. We provide pre-probate leads. We provide divorce leads. We are opening up different types of motivated lead sources, and then we provide a lot of coaching and training outside of just those particular areas. But the leads we provide are probate, pre-probate, or divorce at the moment, with more to come. If you're looking for training and just good education resources, continue to join us because we provide a lot of that in the real estate space in general. Right. So let's go to Craig really quickly. We're running just a little bit over. Is everybody good for a few more minutes? All right. Craig, if you would unmute yourself, and then we'll hit Ken really quickly, and then we'll wrap it up.
Hello, everyone. Bruce, Jim, Tim. My question is in regards to beneficiaries on a fixed income. And if they were to take in a large sum through inheritance, would that affect their fixed income? Like, from what I understand, like people who are on Social Security, I think they're only allowed to take in an extra $22,000 for the year, and then they'll be penalized somehow, some way. And I'm wondering if that applies to the pension as well. And I asked this question just so if I were to present terms to a seller, I just want to make sure I have the right information to relate to them.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer that question theoretically. Okay. And this was coming from my family settling 2 estates. One was a trust, one went through probate. My grandfather had a trust set up, and all the inheritance counted against my parents' income. They had to pay income taxes on that inheritance. Something was missed through the settlement process that it definitely impacted, and the inheritance did not impact their income. So it has a lot to do with who's helping them handle how they are filing their taxes and how they're setting up probate or trust if they have one. So with that, the best answer I can give you is it depends. And you need to talk to a CPA that specifically deals with inheritance tax law, and a really good estate planning attorney / probate attorney. Make sure that whatever the attorney you're talking to doesn't only do probate, but they also do estate planning.
Also, you could tell them that, like you said, it's going to depend on how they're currently tracking their income and all of that. But oftentimes, if there's a trust and they have a trust, money can get passed trust to trust, and it's not going to hit them that way. It'll be within the trust. They can also put it into a trust and put it into trust for their children or whatever. Therefore, they don't have a beneficial interest in the money. But those are all questions for their CPA. And what you might ask is, who is their CPA? And if that's someone that you could talk to. And, that way, if they give you permission to talk to them, first off, your home free if they ever do that. It also shows, even if you're not completely familiar with everything to ask, that CPA will be happy to tell you what their options are. And if they don't, then you might come back to them and say, unfortunately, your CPA didn't give you any great answers. I have a tax guy that you might want to talk to, and have somebody in your back pocket that could really help them do this, because there's no excuse for an inheritance wrecking someone's fixed income and their carefully crafted program. It's not designed that way. In the worst case, they could refuse the inheritance. So a lot of ways around that.
It should not, to Tim's point, it should not impact it, but you do want to make sure that you have the appropriate conversations with professionals that have licenses and certifications above what we have.
Copy.
Cool.
I'm having those conversations now about my lottery winnings. I'm sure that I'm going to win the lottery coming up. So I'm very familiar with all those conversations now.
Awesome. All right, Ken, real quick, what do you have?
Got to unmute.
Yeah, okay. Hey, I'm so glad you brought up the pre-probate, because one of the biggest problems I'm having now is not making the connections, not actually acquiring the clients. That's actually much easier than I anticipated. But the probate court hearings, they're 2, 3, 4 months out, and then they extend them. And now we're going into a down market. So the longer they extend these out, the more money potentially people stand to lose. So my question is, with the pre-probate, how does that go? And then is anyone having success with getting those clients to attorneys that will give them letters of administration, which can circumvent the court dates? So essentially you can get them on the market much faster and save them a lot of money before this interest rate takes more of a toll on the market than it already has.
So they can't circumvent the court date. They can't now. Sometimes someone will file probate and they don't need to. So in a case like that, if they simply don't need to go through probate, they can circumvent the court date because it's just not needed. But connecting them with a good attorney that you trust that can get them through the court process faster, absolutely. So pre-probate, very valuable source of leads. It's a little bit more ambiguous because we are operating off of kind of skip trace researched data. We're not operating off of a hard court record. We're going off of a death record, and then we're looking it up 10 ways to Sunday and trying to figure out who might be involved in that estate. We're providing, in many cases, 7, 8, 9, 10 heirs that we think could be involved. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. There's going to be someone there that you can connect with, and getting ahead of the probate process can be incredibly valuable. Another really big benefit of working pre-probate is you catch some of the trusts. So you may catch a trust that never would have come through on a probate list. And you get real estate records with the pre-probate. So there are some things that make pre-probate a little bit more difficult because you're kind of speculating and guessing as to which heir you really need to be talking with. But you're way ahead of everybody else, way ahead of everybody else. You just have to sort through more straw to find that needle. Okay, not a needle in a haystack. I'm not comparing it to that, but there's more straw there to sort through to get to the real crux of what the person that you need to be dealing with. Okay.
I mean, do you recommend doing both lists or just one or the other?
No, I would do both. I don't think that I would do. I don't think that I would only do pre-probate. Pre-probate is a nice add-on to probate, and it's a lot cheaper too. I would certainly not only do pre-probate. If you were only going to do one, I would only do probate. If you are willing to do two, you might want to bolt on the pre-probate cheaper leads onto your probate list.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Tim, did I answer appropriately? Is that how you would have said it? All right. Perfect. Okay, guys. Jim, let me turn it over to you. I think this was a great call. Really appreciate you guys.
I do too. We went into triple overtime here. We're about 10 minutes after the hour. Longest call in a long time. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to particularly thank those who actively participated. I think our team of Zeke and Alyssa are going to have a hard time picking a winner of the week. We have a few good success stories. I want to thank each of you. I want to challenge each of you to take one thing you learned and something that inspired you on this call. Go out and put it into practice and come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you the same time next Thursday. Take care.